Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Carter Rochester,
And I'm David Thompson.
and today we're gonna just jump right into it. Last night around what was the time?
I was trying to go to sleep. It was past 10 here Eastern
10 there.
time,
Then
like maybe
it
like
was it was
10:30ish.
10:30 ish Eastern time. The world was
The
informed of the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, known under many roles, but for the Marvel fans, it would be Black Panther. For culture for most of popular culture and society, they know him as the Black Panther. He died of colon cancer at 43 years old.
Yep.
And we couldn't think of any way to really broach the topic without just jumping right into it. No fanfare for the music, just talk about the man that he was, and he's passed on, but he's a legend. I mean, he filmed 7 or 8 movies while he was while he had colon cancer, fighting
Yeah.
it, putting his body through peril on multiple levels and ways,
Yeah.
just to bring us entertainment and always being a shining light. And he, for me, just really quick, it's just as like a white kid, I had role models growing up on screen all the time. They were always the main characters. A lot of friends growing up, they loved the Black Ranger,
Right.
Zach Taylor, played by Walter Jones, but at the same time, he wasn't, the quote unquote leader. It was believed that they couldn't be leaders, and then Black Panther came out, and society as a whole really took notice in a different way than they have before. And it is he lived the same life as T'Challa, it seems, just trying to, bring a better world via a smile and an open heart and loving people and being just honest and being there for them. And it's sad that we're here today and we have to talk about this. David,
Yeah.
please stop me.
Yeah, so I think you really brought up a good point that I wanted to bring up. It's just that, same as you, obviously I was a white kid growing up, and my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, because at least at the time I was watching him growing up, he was white. It was Tobey Maguire was kind of the one I was always the one looking up to, and then Andrew Garfield, and even just in the comics, Miles Morales is a relatively new thing. And I think just we love to talk about comic book movies and comics, so I think that's kind of the angle that I most think of when I think of Chadwick Boseman, is him as Black Panther, and just the impact he had on a community and on a society, which is unbelievable. I mean, like, it's immeasurable, really. Like, we will probably never really know like how much he impacted. I mean, there was this video re-popping back up last night after all the news broke of him on the Fallon show. You saw this video, right?
Yeah.
Where all these fans, and I think all of them were African, were Black, and they were just saying how much they were just like talking to a poster, kind of just almost like a gag in a way, where it's just like they weren't actually talking to him, but they were supposed to be talking to him. And that's just a little nugget of it, really. I mean, those are people that actually got to be privileged enough to go on that kind of show. Like, that didn't the little kid who is watching him in theaters or watching him at home, who's buying his action figures, and now it's like my favorite character is my favorite hero is Black Panther, and that's who he thinks of, because nowadays, with how popular the movies are, you always think of the movie star. You don't really think of like the character, almost. You think of the star. Like, when I was a kid, I thought of Tobey Maguire because that was my Spider-Man, for instance, and they would think of Chadwick Boseman. And it's just heartbreaking that he won't be able to keep going and live on the legacy of Black Panther. But I mean, what an absolute freak he is for pushing through what he went through and filming. I have a list of movies he filmed while he was diagnosed. Marshall, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, 21 Bridges, The Five Bloods, May Rainey's Black Bottom, which is completed, hasn't come out. And one thing I don't think you realized, Thomas, that I had noticed doing some research is that What If has been recording, and he was voicing Black Panther in What If, the Disney Plus series coming. So that was another thing. I guess we don't know how far I got through, but I guess really like it's incredible to me. I mean, I think there's that old saying, or I don't know how old it is exactly, but it's like stars like burn brightest before they go out. And I think Chadwick Boseman's like a great example of that, because his like popularity and fame, which I think he didn't really care about. I think it was more of like the impact he had. And like, I mean, he truly cared for people. I mean, you're seeing now these videos and these images popping up of him visiting children's hospitals and all these certain things when he was sick himself. It's just unreal how selfless he was and how much he cared. And it's honestly impressive that this was all kept under wraps. Like, we had no idea. That's why it was such a gut punch. It wasn't like we knew he was sick, and there's that level of, hey, we could expect this. There's a complete blindside last night. Like, no one had any idea, and it's just terribly sad. But like I was saying, I mean, he left such a mark like before he went, and not everyone can say they did in a lifetime that lasts twice as long as his. People can't say they left the mark that he did. So for that, I think it's something that we can be, I guess, grateful for, that he was on this earth and that he was able to do those things. And I just think that his impact will now, I mean, honestly, I think now his work, especially in Marvel or even like, 42, like those things will be so just, I don't know, just saved and put on such a high pedestal, I think, because of his like, his passing. And I mean, not just because he passed away, but because there were such good and impactful roles that he portrayed. And I don't know, I think he was really just a vessel in especially the Black community. Look at the roles he would take on. He wasn't, he had a quote unquote agenda, maybe, or at least a quote unquote mission, I think. I mean, he went after these. I mean, he was Jackie Robinson and he was Black Panther, who was and James
Brown.
And
Thurgood Marshall.
Exactly. Like he knew what he was doing, and he had a voice when he was trying to be a voice for the people that don't have voices in this world. And that's something that most people will never have. And he was so selfless in the way he did it. He was never about him. Even just his character in Black Panther, he's such a selfless, I mean, like, he was really in that role, and you could tell through interviews and stuff where he really put his heart and soul into it. And it's more apparent now than ever that he truly put everything he had into it, considering he had at least stage 3 colon cancer at the time. And that's nothing to like mess around with. I mean, it's serious. They said in the, they announced that multiple surgeries and, chemotherapy, like he wasn't just living with it, like he was getting treatment and doing all these things, which for most people knocks them out. Like you're in the hospital a lot of the time and you're just not yourself. And he was filming action movies and being Black Panther, which is, I mean, one of the most exciting things you could ever do in your career. And he was doing all of this with the diagnosis. But anyway, I just I'm happy that we got him for when we did, I think that's kind of been my change of perspective last night. It was very emotional and very just immediately when something like this happens, like when just recently in February, when Kobe passed, It's just that initial like, no, like this can't be real. Looking like that was my first reaction. This can't be real. Like this is a joke, or it's someone's lying. Like they don't have the facts right, basically.
Yeah,
denial, essentially.
Denial, stage one of grief.
Yeah. So, and it's truly unbelievable with someone like this, where obviously you've never met the person, never knew them on a personal level, but you still feel that like sickness in your stomach, like it is someone you knew. And I think that's when you really know they left an impact. They left their mark.
Yes.
That's what I think anyway. Thank you all for joining us for this little conversation. It's a tough one. This isn't our typical happy-go-lucky Thomas and David shenanigans, but
this is not your average Lights Thunder action today. For sure. He was just a supernova of a light that he was shining in the world, just as a human being. Like to all people, like the line that always, like I wouldn't say it's my favorite, or that it stands out in the fact that I can actually remember it, but it's at the end of Black Panther when it's, we need to come together as one tribe, one people on this planet to live to live a better life and to stop fighting each other. And, in the movie, they're fighting, cosmic threats, aliens, beings of unprecedented power and will. And yet here we are in some, version of that reality in the same way. We are always fighting each other, and someone has ill-perceived power or imperceived maybe. They think they have power, but what they don't realize is that power is not money or this or that or how much you can make people do for you. It's about what you do for not only yourself and your family, but for other people. I'm at a point where I'm not, at least not crying anymore right now. But the only thing that I can think of that, and this ties into what we're going to talk about later to get to our normal version ish of a show, our evolved normal on our show today. And that is it comes straight from Star Wars. Hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you can see it, you'll never make it through the night. And the thing that we have to find, this is just me speaking personally, having been to plenty of funerals in my life, that we have to focus on the good that he did and the hope that he brought others, because that is what a legacy is about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with Chadwick Boseman, that's so easy to do,
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like he, especially in these final however long of his life, like he left such an imprint, and it was such a positive force, like unbelievably positive. And it's just heartbreaking. We can kind of be wrapping up here. It's heartbreaking that he won't be able to continue as especially Black Panther, because like I said, I'm devastated. I can't imagine being like 8 and all of a sudden my hero has passed away. Like if I was like, I would have hoped my mom or like my parents wouldn't have even like, I hope I wouldn't have found out for a while or something, because that's just
devastating.
And this is actually, this is kind of a funny comment, but in Infinity War, I remember sitting there watching Infinity War. Obviously, Black Panther's in it, doing great. Chadwick Boseman, awesome. And there's the moment when Thanos snaps, and everyone in the theater is like, in their heads, oh, we're getting that shot of Okoye grabbing T'Challa. Like, it's going to be Okoye that starts dusting in my head. And it's Black Panther that does. It's T'Challa. And that's a character. And in the theater, when I saw that movie the first time, everyone lost it when Black Panther died. It was Black Panther and it was Spider-Man when everyone was like, it's over. Like, this is what is happening. I hate this movie. That's a character, and that just goes to show in my head how many people cared and were invested and just loved his portrayal of that character. And I mean, you just take that little character moment and crank that up to about 1 million, and that was last night. Because it's just when things get real, I don't know. Like we kind of like to live in a fantasy land sometimes, and then things just come back down to earth, and it's tough. It's tough. But look, we have to stay positive. I think he would want us to. I think based off. Obviously, none of us knew him personally, but based off what we knew of him and
his actions in the last 4 years.
Exactly. Like, based off his, he didn't want anyone to know he was sick. He kept keeping on and fought through so much. I'm sure, like, looking back now, it'll be super emotional to think what he was going through during all of this. Like, we just thought he was perfectly healthy shape and doing his thing. And now it's like there's so much added context to everything over the last 4 years because of it. And it's truly, I mean, T'Challa and Black Panther's great, but Chadwick Boseman's the real hero, like he's the real hero. And I think that shouldn't be missed. And I think
at all. Yeah.
Like it's still unbelievable. I mean, we had this episode planned, obviously, for this Saturday, and we had no idea this would be coming the night before. I mean, we're still less than 24 hours since the news, and it's still pretty raw. And today I've been distracted and trying not to think about it, but it's
same.
It's just unbelievable, man. But hey, we
have to remember his light.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
And live his purpose, his way, and that's greet everyone with a smile and be warm and caring to them and, listen to them and make them feel like they matter in the world because it's just, everything in this world right now says that you don't matter, but you do. And that's the point of heroes, is they inspire you to do better. And that is exactly what Chadwick Boseman is.
Yep. I agree.
So I think we should stop crying and
get that little moment.
Get back on the horse, proverbially. But before we do our show and try to bring some sort of positive attitude and light to the world, like Chadwick did, we want to remember him with a 43-second moment of silence. And welcome to the 22nd episode. I don't even want to say officially, but eventually you've made it here. Today we're talking about we just have two things. David's going to talk about good old New Mutants.
Yep.
It sounds like old mutants, honestly. And then we are going to talk the end of Star Wars, bringing hope and light to the world. And with the climactic battle after the darkness that was the Empire Strikes Back, we have Return of the Jedi this afternoon. And I have lots of thoughts. And I hope we don't go for 2 hours just on Star Wars, but it's possible.
Hey, let's give them what they want. We'll see how it goes. But so we've still got our hybrid of a episode here, but we're gonna push through. We're still gonna do what we do. Obviously finishing off this segment this section of trilogy of trilogies, finishing off the original Star Wars trilogy today. But yeah, so
before we get to that, I do want to mention the Tournament of Trilogies. We will get that up. We will figure out how to make this succeed. Facebook polls is not working for us all week. It has been a very frustrating week trying to get a poll up every single day. Come on, Zuckerberg, please help. But we will get that up, and we will finish the Tournament of Trilogies next weekend. We are not going to have a show just because I will be traveling. Hopefully I'll be back, but we'll see what happens in all honesty. Yes,
but we will say we have some exciting things coming up. Up the road, not, maybe some more interviews, maybe some more things like that. We've had a lot of fun recently with obviously Bill Sadler and Melinda Snodgrass just came on this past week. So thank you all for joining us for those episodes. Those have been really fun. We're happy to be back with kind of what turned into not quite a normal episode of Lights Thunder Action, but
I'm enjoying the shake up in at least our programming and what we've been doing. It keeps it fresh.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, so we still have a lot more down the road. I don't know when we'll be recording quite after this episode, but there'll be plenty more down the pike. Thank you all so much for your support. Obviously, and if you guys didn't know, we haven't been on air since we all this happened. Was that go read about us on the internets.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we haven't been live. So we had a few news media outlets pick up the story about not really about us.
Not at all.
No. We were just kind of like the people that were there.
We were the shepherds of the story.
Yeah, they just had to give us credit, kind of.
But, really, David was the shepherd of that story. He's a smooth talking son of a blue. I'm sorry, a smooth talking son of a family. Thank you, FCC.
But
I was waiting for you to go.
I was going to say that. Yeah, so Bill Sadler, obviously, he kind of announced, he kind of just answered on my question and said that he had filmed some stuff for President Ellis that he appeared in, like reappearing as President Ellis from Iron Man 3 in Ant-Man. And that we never saw that. That was news. No one had ever heard of that. And a few media sources picked that up and wrote about it. So that was really exciting for us. We're obviously a small show here that's growing. And
some of my favorite websites that I frequent on a regular basis. Exactly. That was really weird.
It was really weird, and they said, and they linked our show and stuff. So thank you all for your support. All of you that always tune in to us. So it was very exciting to have other people maybe see Lights Thunder Action somewhere else other than here on Facebook and on YouTube. But that was really exciting for us. So anyway,
and if you are a new fan, where you've recently subscribed to the show on YouTube, the HWWS WebTV YouTube channel, or here on our Facebook page, thank you, welcome. We hope that you'll join us. We enjoy doing this, and we will have a fun journey together in this wonderful mystery that we call life.
Yes, sir. Want to bring up Thomas Carter. Yes, the one problem with the some of the stories that are written is because Thomas, credits himself. He says Thomas Carter Rochester, which is his full name.
My legal name.
I forget what.
Spoiler.
I want to call them out, but I forget what website just said Thomas Carter and didn't say the full name.
It's cool. A couple of them. I won't call them out. I have already reached out. Maybe they'll add my last name. If not, that's okay. Whatever. It's a rental.
Yeah. Oh, well. But exciting nonetheless.
The direct got it right. I will shout out the one who got it right. Well, not the one, but one of the ones who got it right. They were the first one to break it. Yep. I appreciate them getting it right after... I don't remember what the heck it was. But yeah, I did bring the reaction in that video when he dropped the Ant-Man thing, which is just my mind being officially blown.
Yeah. It was a cool moment. That interview was awesome.
I knew what was happening. I was like, I don't know this information yet, and I don't know
Yep.
if anyone else does. Holy balls.
Oh, I
Wow.
know. When he said it, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Are we onto something
I
here?
did not play it cool at all.
I don't think either of us did. Just the video's up.
Yeah, I went full Kevin Smith on that one. Almost. But it is time. Let's go ahead and jump right in. And by we, I mean this beautiful face over here.
Yeah, so this is it. I was back in the theater seeing a new movie. I saw Empire Strikes Back when we did it for Trilogy of Trilogies last week. And this week I went back to the cinema and saw The New Mutants, which this is his 5th release date, I believe, maybe 6th because of COVID. I know with COVID, there's been a lot of like intermediate release dates and it's been kind of a jumble, but finally saw it. This is kind of set to be the last Fox 20th Century Fox X-Men film, which kind of, I mean, it's a spin-off of that, but it's kind of the last one in this universe from what we understand. It's not good. I do not recommend going to see it. I would say it's surprising that they let it just ride out this far, but also unsurprising that they decided just to make it the first kind of big-ish release during the pandemic right now when, theaters are low and not a lot of people are going out to theaters. They should have just pushed out this movie a long time ago and gotten it over with, is my opinion. Or just put it on digital, because there's a few things about it I wanted to point out. Non-spoilers, of course. If you want to go see it, go for it. But it's not the best movie I've ever seen. It's actually really bad. I saw it with my girlfriend. She was like, after we left the theater, she's like, that's one of the worst movies I've seen in a very long time. And typically she's not that hard of a critic, but we had
Jasmine said that?
Yeah, she was not a fan.
Wow, it must have been that bad.
Yeah. we were having a fun. Honestly, if I had seen it by myself, it would have been depressing though, because being at least with her, with someone to see it with, we can make fun of it as it went along. So that's like when a movie's bad. And it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but this is how I would describe New Mutants. Like for anyone who's wondering, because this movie's in such a mystery, we've seen bits, they're these young mutants. Obviously they have superpowers and they seem to be like locked up or something. So essentially it is a movie about some young teenagers that are mutants. As we know, basically mutants become X-Men, and it's not always vice versa. And they are, together in this one, I guess sort of, I would say, holding facility, or, just kind of not exactly Professor X's mansion. But I guess like a really bad version of that. And the main character she wasn't pushed much in the marketing. We saw more of what's her name? Arya Stark's
Maisie Williams.
Yeah, Maisie Williams. We saw kind of some more of her and the kid from Stranger Things who's in this movie, and they were good, The older brother.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know his name. Sorry, that guy.
I'm sorry, guy. I don't know your name. I apologize.
It's been a long day. But anyway, so the main character, I don't know the actress' name. I don't really want to know it because I don't want to bash her too bad. She's not good. She's really bad in this film. And we're like, me and Jasmine were sitting there being like, why is she the main character in my head? I mean, we were saying that, so it wasn't in my head. And it just seemed like it's a film that tries to be a lot. It tries to be a comic movie. It tries to be a horror movie. It tries to be a teeny bop romantic kind of movie. I mean, like a Fault in Our Stars sort of thing. You know what I mean? While also trying to be horror-like, like Stranger Things-like in a way, and then also trying to be X-Men.
What?
It does all of that while not having a moving plot. It New Mutants as a storyline plot is wandering around lost in the woods, and it just kind of like haphazardly bumps into like things. That's literally how the movie goes. That's the best way I would describe it. It haphazardly bumps into conflict or an event happening. There's no like from the jump, things are, there's a lot of moving parts, but none of it is really driving. None of it's being pushed by a story, and it's surprisingly bad. Like the storytelling is surprisingly bad. I'm just grateful it's only 95 minutes. It's not that long of a flick.
Oh my god, that is short.
Yeah, so that was an upside because it was funny. I lean over. I'm like, we're only an hour in, and she looks at me like, oh no, like it's only been an hour. Like, it's only an hour and a half. She's like, oh thank goodness, like you scared me. Because nowadays most movies are 2 hours long. So
yeah, especially the ones you take her to.
Yeah, right, exactly. Movies and stuff. Yeah, God bless her. A question from Terry: is that the girl from Split? The girl from Split is not the main character. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying, Terry. Is that the
you got so mad you muted yourself.
They did not like promote the main character, the girl who plays her, in the marketing. That's what I'm saying, and I think they did it on purpose because in the actual, it's almost like Knives Out. You saw that movie, Thomas?
Yes.
The main character in Knives Out isn't like promoted as the main character in the marketing. It feels kind of like that with this film, but way worse. And where almost like they felt like it felt like instead in that movie, it was a surprise and it was interesting that she was the main character. But in this film, it's like, were they trying to hide her in the trailers? It's just,
what's the girl's name? That's the
I don't know.
No, the character.
Danielle.
Danielle.
Yeah.
Danny.
Yeah. Danielle or Danny. Moonstar. Danielle Moonstar is the.
Oh, I see it now. I see it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not good. I think now with the pandemic, obviously, and theaters just now opening up, I'm not a big fan of putting a score on anything. I would say the best way to frame it is it worth going to the theater for? The answer is no. I'm hoping next week when I go see Tenet, it will be a 2 thumbs up.
That is a good scale. I think we should continue that from this point on.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like that's just the perfect way to judge it and scale it because it's simple at this point. Whether the movie's good or not is trivial at this point. It's you're kind of going into a potential life or death situation if you have some disorder that you don't realize you have.
Yeah,
and then they have coronavirus, and you get it, and then it's like, oh no, it turns out I've had this for 6 months and I'm immunocompromised now. That would suck. That'd be a terrible way to find out something. Obviously, we're still in the gut punch fear phase right now, but we're working on that stage of grief.
I would say in my scale, is it worth it or not? I'm also assuming that you're of good health and would be someone who would even consider going to a theater. Not like, hey, you're high risk. You must go see this movie. Yes. No. Just hey, if you were considering going, it's not worth it. New Mutants is not worth it. I could see why they were trying to be the first one kind of out in theaters. I was checking next week's, at least here, the movie times, and Tenet is just... It's every single movie slot. So they're just Mutants game, it's going to go. I am stunned. There was probably some sort of logistical thing with the law and the rights. This movie should have just been straight to VOD or streaming. Because
it was legally contracted to have a
theatrical release.
A theatrical release. It had to before anything else could happen. And then it goes to, I think, HBO Max? It has a streaming deal already. Yeah, it already has a streaming deal. So
I think HBO Max is correct because it has the deal with X-Men and Fox right now.
Yeah, that's right. It had an old Fox agreement. That's right.
Right. So I will just say final thoughts on New Mutants. It's not worth it. There are some parts. Okay, so there's some loose connections with the X-Men universe. As a comic book fan, I go see these. I like to see all these movies, but I want to see New Mutants just because, hey, it is kind of a comic book movie. The Marvel flipping pages pops up at the beginning. Yeah, I'm going to see any movie that has it at the beginning. You understand? So
blind allegiance.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. It doesn't hardly feels like an X-Men movie.
It's just a movie that they have weird powers.
This could have been if you told me if it was called something different and it wasn't in the X-Men universe, it just could have been it could have been a bad teen romantic movie that had superpowers in it, Okay. And And the story's just not there. Like, if the story was more interesting, it would have been a lot better. The story's just not interesting. They rush it. It seems like they cut it to 135 just to get it over with, in my opinion. Honestly, genuinely.
Oh my.
Watching the film, it's like they have to get there's a few interesting, sort of interesting, character, I would say, maybe developments or traits, because each of these new mutants has their own individual backstory, and we get all the backstories. Mm-hmm. So I would say, if there was going to be one positive, and I'm trying to be positive today, it would be that. It's that each character, the characters are kind of interesting. If someone was pitching this to me, in Hollywood, I'm sure this movie's happened, because they pitched it. They said they broke down each character, and then they're like, that sounds interesting. It sounds interesting that it would be a spin on a kind of a horror film. I'm not into horror movies. It wasn't that scary, but there's those elements to it. And they throw those in so cheaply too. 1 second it'll feel like you're watching Twilight, and then it's like you're watching The Conjuring or something, and it's like it just flips, and it's like, what is even happening right now? That's what I'm saying, Thomas. It's not only is the plot everywhere, but the theme is everywhere. It's okay. It's stunning. Well, this movie. I want to.
I've got an idea. I'm just gonna because I'm gonna try and put a positive spin on this. Having not seen the movie, hard disclaimer, fan theory time. What if, remember, there was a rumor that Kevin Feige saw this and was like, this needs to come out, or like, let it come out or whatever. Yeah. What if his whole purpose was like, it's not that great, but get it out there. These people worked hard on the movie, and it'll be a great reminder when we make something good.
Hey, I think that's exactly what happened. And I think Maisie Williams is great in it, and I love her. So there we go. She's great in it. She is great in it. That's all I have to say.
That's all I have to say. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take well, really quick before we do this. This is a monumental moment. It's like we said, today is a changing format of the show a little bit. An evolved normal. If you are a fan of Lights, Thunder, Action, and you have something you want to sell and or sponsor, we here are always seeking sponsors. Really, we are trying to, more than anything, just cover our StreamYard fee that we pay. So that way, instead of losing money as a business, it's always nice to make money, but baby steps, right? Yeah, we would like to break even. We're not greedy. It is what it is. If you would like to sponsor, please contact one of us on Facebook. You can find us here through Lights, Thunder, Action, and I believe all of our videos have contact info in some way of social media. So just reach out to us if you would like to sponsor something that you have coming out, and we would be happy to do it for you, because we enjoy promoting other people. That's why we love doing the interviews. We're promoting them and their work and getting to talk to them and learn about them. And with these sponsored ads, we get to learn about you and what you have to offer. So for the first time ever, we will be right back after this ad.
You have more options than ever before when choosing a film, a television or internet series, a book to curl up with, or even a radio show or podcast. Get to know the people who are creating for you. The Hangin with Web Show, hosted by award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomacher, is the internet's fastest-growing web talk show series. The Hangin with Web Show features professional, yet casual, in-depth interviews with creative arts and entertainment pros. Meet the people behind a digital revolution in creating more quality content than ever before in the history of media. Find the Hangin with Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or simply go to www.hanginwithshow.com. That's www.hanginwithshow.com.
Hey.
Join me and we shall bring back Lights, Thunder, Action to the galaxy. Welcome back, everyone, from that ad break. We hope that you got to pee in the middle of it. That's great about ads as well. If you don't want to listen to it, which why would you not want to listen to it? You can take your phone to the bathroom anyway. You're welcome. Don't act like we don't do it, everyone. We're going to jump right in to the trilogy of trilogies.
We're wrapping it up.
boy, you know what, David? I am also rusty. I didn't even get a voice going on right there. It is a day of evolved normal, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing our best to bring light to the world, and this is the movie to do it. Oh, of course, I have the Darth Vader side. I'm so stoked on that, I suppose.
I'm happy I'm on Luke's side. I'll tell you why. I love the green lightsaber. Give me more of the green lightsaber, dude. It should have been. Don't forget the flashbacks. It should have been properly in the sequel trilogy. I wanted to see Luke wield it. The sequel trilogy does so much not good. Bad for us.
We'll get to the bad sequel trilogy. We'll get there.
Honestly I enjoy it, but I will say, like, there's stuff like that. They miss on fan service, which is the one thing they shouldn't be missing on in those movies. We never get the original three back together, and I don't see Luke wield his green lightsaber. I mean, I'm weird with the green lightsaber. I don't think anyone cares as much as I do, but I really like the green lightsaber.
I can tell you right now, there are some people who care. You need to listen to Jabba the Pod, bro.
Yes.
Go back and listen to them as they cover the Clone Wars episodes, because it's a lot of fun. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It is a lot of fun, and later on, there's a gimmick. They have fun gimmicks and segments, and it's just it's fan service from the fans is a good way to put that entire podcast. And they basically said that the entire reason they started that podcast might be because two guys liked Luke's lightsabers being green. They're like, I think this is how this podcast started. I think it is. We just talked for like 5 hours at work one day how much we love the green lightsaber, and then it's like, oh my god, that's how it happened.
The green lightsaber, there's something about it. I don't know what the mystical magical thing. It's like
it was
when it shoots out of R2-D2 and he catches it and ignites it. It's just a moment, and it's an underrated Star Wars moment in my opinion, because I love that moment. It's the first time we see it. Mm-hmm. It's just it's bright outside, and it's just a bright green lightsaber. And they cut that that deleted scene of him creating it. You know that, right?
Yeah, they did.
Which is a shame. I know, right? Like, as a kid, I always loved to, because you get the line later when Vader's like,
"Oh, you have constructed your own lightsaber.
Yeah,
you have grown powerful in the Force,"
which is sick. I think he says, your skills are now complete, which I thought.
He does say that.
Yeah, I love that.
Skills are now complete,
which is just great, because he's like, "Oh, great, you'll be able to join me, and we can rule the galaxy."
I'm the master now.
So, beyond the green lightsaber, there's other parts of this movie.
We're done with the green lightsaber.
We had to be done eventually. I love it, but anyway.
Do you mind if I run through my notes, because they're eclectic, and I know I'm gonna forget to read some of them, and I just want to get through them, because it's pretty sure it's like less than a page. That's pretty good for me normally.
Go for it, man. Let's hear it. Let's hear Thomas Carter Rochester's thoughts on Return of the Jedi.
Here, we're just gonna start right at the beginning in Jabba's palace. When Luke shows up, he's speaking with Vader's cadence. "You will bring Han Solo and the Wookiee to me."
Yeah.
Like, I always say that, and I do it with a James Earl Jones impression. And I always forget that that's Luke Skywalker.
The thing is, so I was like half watching, half playing video games with my friends earlier when I was watching this movie. As one does when you've seen a movie 100 times. But so, I mean, it was I had a good time. And I was talking to my friend, shout out Evan, and I was saying how he was saying how he loved that, like that was his favorite Star Wars film growing up as a kid and everything. Return of the Jedi.
Fair.
Yeah. It was mine too, to be honest, when I was a kid, because it's the fun one, and it's the it's the happy one, in my opinion.
It's true.
Which is just like a stupid thing to say, but I guess but it's true, And one of the points I was making, I was like, it just kind of started, and I'm like, see, what's awesome about this movie is that Luke is so much cooler in this film than the last two. He's like honed it in. I didn't say it quite like that, but I was basically just saying, like, Luke being this now,
Luke,
calm, collected, force using, hero now, instead of kind of being it. we get it a little bit in Empire, but even then, when he goes to fight Vader, he's still kind of this kid who's crying and freaking out when he learns he's his father. He's not this like cool, calm, collected. You know, you will bring Solo to me. Awesome. I absolutely love. That's why this movie to me stands up so much, because I love Luke in this movie more than I do in 4 and 5. This is my favorite Luke Skywalker in this film of any Star Wars film, because I didn't like him that much in the sequel trilogy. So this is my favorite Luke because he's finally, you know, he's figured out what the Force is. He's been training with Yoda. It's clicked. He understands. You can tell he's been doing some outside research. Obviously, he built the lightsaber. He's been looking around. There's been a time gap. I enjoy the time gaps because, especially in this film from Empire, because a lot has changed. And then also we have the contradiction of that with Han being frozen in time, which I think is a fun thing. And the story really pushes with the Skywalkers, Leia, Luke, Anakin. Those three really have that time gap you really notice in this film. Yeah, especially Luke and Vader. Vader is now kind of on his last legs a bit, and you don't. Sorry, I'm stealing away your thunder. This is supposed to be your time to talk about your notes.
Evolve normal.
This is normal though.
Kind of.
Right.
I do it too.
Vader is now, not only do we see him, you know, at the end of this film go down, but also, well, in a way, he also kills the Emperor. But we also see in this movie, you know, it's a slight thing, but the Emperor comes into the fold really early in this film, and it makes Vader seem less powerful than we did in A New Hope and Empire. Yes. And that is like something that really resonates now, where we're seeing a Vader that the Emperor's plan is for Luke to kill Vader and Luke to take the Vader mantle. You know, that's the Emperor's plan. Vader has run his course. Thomas, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Because I was looking for the point on that, because I just keep going instead of going through the movie, you know, one by one.
Yeah.
You know, Palpatine was really testing Luke. And in a way, he was also testing Vader, because it's just a test.
Who's the best?
Who's gonna win? Whoever wins is my apprentice. So, and he did it in such a similar way to how it was done for Anakin and Dooku.
Yeah.
So the parallels now like really shine through, like right there in front of space. But this time it's a war going on out. Oh, wait a minute. It's still a war, just a different way, different style. And then, you know, Anakin succumbs to it because he wants to kill him. He's got that imbalance in him, and he's got this inability to let go. And for Luke, it's less about letting go, which brings me to an issue with Obi-Wan. So remind me in like 30 to 40 seconds.
Okay.
He has more hope. He's less logical about it, and he's just like, I can feel it, I can sense it. This is the way it is.
Yeah,
I can sense good in him, which echoes Padme's line. There's still good in him. I know it. And then that brings me to the, you know, we're gonna jump to Dagobah and now, because when you know, Yoda says fear, anger, aggression, once you start down that path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Right. And then the very next damn scene is Obi-Wan, and what is he doing? He is exhibiting a type of fear when he's talking to Luke. When he's talking to Luke, and he's supposed to be, you know, the he's supposed to be the Jedi, you know, in Clone Wars, Dave Filoni looks at him as, you know, the one true Jedi. He's the true believer in the Jedi. He's the true believer, and he's the true believer in the Jedi. That was definite. That went from Stan Lee attempt to Emperor real fast. And then he's fearful of Luke still holding out hope and having emotions and things of that nature. And that's all the things they try to tell Anakin, which is why he went bad. He turned bad. And Luke instead went, no, you know, in his own way, I think it's no, I feel these things and I know it to be true because, you know, he's not as hung up. He doesn't have the attachment to who Vader was.
And I was going to point out really quick that Luke, he's so clear and concise. I feel the conflict in you. I will never turn to the dark side.
Yes.
And he's that, you know, that true, pure, good light. Yeah. And we see Anakin. Honestly, this movie makes Revenge of the Sith look really good, in my opinion. Because it's really, it ties in so much to this film. It's the full kind of, I mean, it's not the full arc, but if you just started from 3 and went to 6, you'd see like the Vader arc. You know what I mean?
Vader arc, yes.
Yeah. You don't, in my opinion, you don't need 1 and 2 to really get it like you can here. And it makes it look so good. And it's cool to think back to episode 3 and think, you know, Anakin had these attachments to Padme, and Luke has no like romantic attachments, you know, and that's a big thing with him. Honestly, if Star Wars had never happened and been created in 2020 right now, or 2021, when things will actually be created again, hopefully, Luke would have a love interest. We never get that in the original Star Wars film. They spend it on Han and Leia. You know what I mean? And that's awesome. And it's a brilliant way of playing it because, and it honestly, I think it makes episode 3 more powerful, where Anakin has his love interest. She's pregnant. They're married. They're, you know, incredibly in love. And that's why, I mean, that's what seduces him to the dark side. After all, like it's to try to save Padme.
Oh my God.
Go
Hold
on.
Me. So I want to. That was an amazing segue because there's a scene. It's after Luke talks to Leia, and it's like, you're my father has it. Yes. My sister has it.
Amazing.
And she's like,
I love that scene.
And then you see the realization. She's like, sister. Yes, Leia, it's you. I know. I've always somehow known. And it's like, oh, the Force Awakens.
Also, Thomas.
But then she turns right around, and you know, Han's angry, and they have their little spat. But then he's like, "I'm sorry." Yeah. And the first thing she says is, "Hold me." And I instantly heard Padme go, "Hold me," like we did on the plains of Naboo. And that's in 3. That is after he has that nightmare.
Yeah,
and it's showing her strength in the Force, but she's now realizing that Luke's her brother, Vader is her father, and now she's got this conflict of emotions welling up, and she's always got to hold them down. But with Han and Luke, she can let them down. And with Luke, you know, she wasn't sure why, but with Han, she was loving him.
Yeah, right.
And it really parallels Padme there and the hold me. And if you really think about it, you got to look at you could look at it. It's because of the fear. It's that recognition, and then that coldness will surround you once you start realizing the situation. And for Padme, she was, I think, no matter what she would be shown, because I'm listening to Queen's Peril right now, and it's the first days of Padme and the handmaidens of becoming the cohesive Queen Amidala that they were. And her whole point and purpose was to not show emotion. So when it comes to being a senator, Padme didn't show a lot of emotion. So when she's showing it to Anakin there, that is a rarity that they have. And Leia is similar in that aspect. She can't show her emotions to everyone. She's got to lead. Yeah. And it's a very good parallel, but she has that ability to do that with Han and with Leia. And then the only time that she really cracks in that facade, you know, outside of those two people and maybe Chewie, is with Holdo, when she says, "I can't take any more losses." And it's like, of course you can. You taught me how to.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, what a string of things happening in this vast story. And just mind-boggling. Also, Leia is shredded, and the fact that we don't recognize that and the difficulty of doing that is a damn shame. So I'm throwing some respect on Carrie Fisher's name, because that chick, she had so many obliques. You know, I'm gonna go full physical trainer nerd, personal trainer nerd for her serratus muscles were on. I'm jealous. I'm so jealous that I don't have that right now. And it's like, you know what? I got to get back on my game. She is shredded. She busted her ass for this to be in that shape for that stupid scene, which was there for gratuity and gratuity only. And at the end of the day, respect on Carrie Fisher. She was yoked. She was shredded. Fitness goals.
I have two things about Leia. One.
Oh boy. Weird segue after what I said.
Okay, we got to get it together. One thing on Leia. There's the moment that I've always had a problem with that actually made more sense to me this time watching it, where she remembers Padme. But we talked about this. But it's like she's like, it's more of a feeling. And you know that she was very beautiful and that she was sad. And honestly, that holds up. Like it holds up. If it's just a feeling, and I mean, you can just kind of picture her being beautiful and that she was sad because obviously she dies. So it's not perfect, but I think because they are these force sensitive beings, and they can, you know, Obi-Wan says you can feel the future and all these different things. Like I buy it, especially I think. I used to almost imagine it as being more precise than that. Her being like, oh, I remember her when I was a child. Like, I remember when I was like 3. And then that would make any sense. But honestly, the line makes sense. It's more of a feeling. She was like, I buy it. George Lucas, I'm not going to rag you for that anymore. Second thing on Leia, it is still incredibly hype to hear that Leia is another, like she is the other Force user. And Luke saying that you will know this power too. Basically saying like, you need to learn this. You need to be a Jedi as well. And it's so disappointing. I mean, it's cool, the little bit we get in the sequel trilogy, but they basically write out her being a real Jedi. I mean, I know there was a rumor, or at least like, I don't know if it was confirmed that in episode 9, if Carrie Fisher hadn't tragically passed away, that we might have seen her actually wielding a lightsaber for the first time in not in a flashback like we do see in episode 9, which is cool. That scene's awesome. I love that scene in episode 9 because it
fills the gap.
Yeah, and there's just a part of me. I almost hope there's like a comic book that comes out maybe someday of like, you know, Leia training or just like something with her actually wielding a lightsaber. Just because it almost feels like they never really came through with that one. You know what I mean? Like. It sort of happened. And we get kind of the explanation in The Rise of Skywalker of how she sensed her son and all this stuff. She was going to kill her son. Yes. So like it was written off. We get it, but the way it was built between Empire and then Return of the Jedi, like Yoda goes, "There is another," and then we get the Luke's telling her that she needs to train in the Force. It kind of feels like they never really finished through with that one. And I'm disappointed. Maybe if George Lucas was still really involved in the sequel trilogies, we would have gotten that. But
bro, yeah, the rumors of what his sequel trilogy was like it really dove in. This whole saga was really originally written as like a book of concepts, and it was called The Guardian of the Wills. And they would have dove into the actual Guardian of the Wills and talked about the Guardians and the Wills in what would it be? It would be 7, 8, and 9. And that was his goal. And it sounds like it was more existential into the Force and into we would have met more eternal like beings.
Right.
Other than, the Force ghosts and things of that nature. It would have been superbly ancient. Yeah, no. Well, it would have been superbly ancient beings, like the Mortis arc. Is a perfect example. Okay. It would be those style beings so strong in the Force that it's just humans cannot fathom.
So throw me a few other things on your list.
So, you were talking about Vader and how he looks weak, but what I like is
weak.
What I like is that it shows how strong the Emperor really is in this moment.
Right.
I always think, Vader could take Emperor Palpatine, and then you watch these movies and you read the comics and it's like, not at all, bro. Yeah. Not even slightly could he take him because he doesn't have he's still good. That's still his friend. That's the good in him.
Yeah.
In a way.
One thing I don't like, shout out to episode 3 again. I don't like how he wields a lightsaber in episode 3. Meh. I think Yoda's cool when he pulls out a lightsaber. That seems more appropriate to me. People are upset about that. People think like, oh, Yoda wielding a lightsaber kind of like it's a letdown because it seems like Yoda should be so much more like almost like above that in a way. Like he's kind of above wielding a lightsaber. But I think it's fine. But to me, it's like the Emperor is just so strong in his like devotion and his just abilities, like the shooting lightning out of your hands. It's not just a normal trait, you know. It's almost like, why does he need this lightsaber? I think part of it might have been it was, you know, quote unquote cool and flashy.
I think it was just him having fun, in all honesty. Because think about when he uses it, it's against. He uses it a little bit against Yoda, right? It's very short. But
yeah, he uses it against Yoda when they're bouncing around, going crazy.
Yeah. So they use it there. So that's, you know, an equal battle right there. That's why, because we know Yoda's going to use his lightsaber. He is trying to kill him because he has to end him. But then when he takes out, like the first time we see him wield it, he duffs, dude. He duffs what, 3 Jedi Masters?
I think if you don't count the lightning of Mace. 3, right?
Yeah, I'm just with the lightsaber. Yeah,
right.
And the only reason that Mace goes against him is because Mace is using the dark side, and Palpy is trying to he's trying to throw the fight so that Annie will not be okay. See what I did there? But it really shows, you know, and the thing that I like, especially in this movie, is the specific moment where Palpy senses Vader wants to go look for young Skywalker. And Vader pauses and looks at him and turns and then looks back up. And in my head, I see Anakin going, after all these years, how can you still see through me so much?
Right.
And I think that answer is the good in him.
You know what I'm excited for, Thomas? This is completely random, kind of. But I'm really excited for the Obi-Wan series if we get Anakin, if we get a little bit of Vader. And I kind of hope they don't even see each other. We're just gonna get a bit of like the story. And I hope even if we see like a young Luke, the time gap I think between episode 3 and 4 is one of the most rich and is actively being delved into by Disney and Marvel. Like it's just a pool of ideas. We're seeing Rogue One. Both spin-off movies are in that time technically. Fallen Order, the video game, was in that time. A lot of books, a lot of comics, and now Obi-Wan will also be in that time between 3 and 4 because it's such a fun time to dive into. It is before we get that feisty rebellion really coming up and being an actual pain in the Empire's butt. It's when the Empire has a heavy hand over the galaxy, and super fascinating. I can't wait for that. Especially watching this.
You haven't seen Rebels either, right?
No, and that's also in that time period. Exactly.
And then you find out how late the rebellion actually starts. Like the Rebel Alliance starts. It's maybe 2 or 3 years old in Star Wars: A New Hope. Like it's that young. 2, 3. It's not even. This is in. Spoiler alert, because I just want you to understand. It happens. Their official union happens in season 3 of Rebels, near the end of that season, and then season 4 happens, and then it's like a year until Rogue One.
Okay,
so that, you know, it's very, very young.
Does Leia appear in Rebels?
She appears in like the first season. It's like she's very young. She's just like I think she's 13 because it's all set 4 years before A New Hope, and I think she's supposed to be 17 along with Luke in A New Hope.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, you know, roughly 17, 18, 19. I have to go back. Actually, I think they are 19 because they're born at the end of 3, and 3 is like it's about 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. Okay. So I think they're 19 actually.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But you know, that means she's 15, 14. So about the same age as we made Amidala in number 1. But I love that little tip of the hat to Vader and his relationship. It was just like, you know, wow. And then when it comes to, you know, when they are testing Vader and Luke, it brings back episode 3 a lot more because now he's in that exact same spot.
Yeah.
Which one do I choose? Like, what I have to do something. I have to do. And unfortunately for the Emperor, in this case, he couldn't save his family. He was killing his family. And that was just too much for him. He'd already endured too much loss.
Yeah.
And so that's why he turned. But I love Palpy calling Luke his apprentice this entire time. And then, the arrogance, the manipulation. And Vader should know that. I mean, this is going to be just a thing, but he should remember the rule of 2 being a real deal. I don't remember if he ever knows it. I don't know if he's ever told. I think that might have been a Jedi Master meeting, but I don't remember. But if that's the case, then he should know that, like, what's happening.
Yeah.
And then Palpy orchestrates Luke being the first to strike a blow. And that's how Vader fights Luke. Because Vader's willing to do it, but he didn't want to be the one to start it, I think.
No, and it's cool how Luke comes in civilly. They're just talking. He's just in handcuffs. They're walking in. It's not just like it's not like an Empire where he's sneaking up, and it's that crazy. And obviously that we talked about last week in Cloud City. And one of my favorite moments in this whole movie, in all of Star Wars, is just Vader being like, nearing the end of their fight, "Oh, a sister," and if you won't turn, maybe she will. And Luke just flips. He just loses it, and that's how he overtakes him, because just that just flicked a switch in his head that he just like can't, like, if himself maybe, but Leia, no way. And he just goes crazy on Vader, and that's just one of my favorite moments in Star Wars.
And you know what I love about that is that when you go back to Yoda's quote, fear, anger, aggression, once you start down that path, forever will it dominate your destiny. He's not exactly wrong.
Right.
Like, it really, that is true. You are always being tested by it. Obi-Wan was tested by it multiple times. Qui-Gon was obviously tested. Dooku was tested. Everybody gets and that's real life. You are always being tested by, quote unquote, the dark side. These feelings that create horrible other feelings that compound on top of it.
Yeah.
And it's always there. And that is the only reason why and I'm speaking just from experience here, that once you go down angry, it's hard to get rid of anger. It takes a lot of meditating and being as chill as a cucumber as you possibly can be, and forgiving. And Luke goes right there, right instantly, when his sister is threatened. And in 7, he is seeing his nephew go down the path. And again, he is being manipulated here, because once he starts, you can't get rid of fear. It's always there. You have to just do your best to meditate it away, to breathe it out. And that's why he strikes his saber in a moment, because he's fearful. And everyone's like, he wouldn't do that. And it's like, are you sure though?
Yeah.
He, in that moment of fear, was willing to kill his father, and then he was able to stop and have a wherewithal. And then he mentions that the reason that he did everything in the way he did is because of his hubris. He was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And I think that, that gels. People lose track of who they are sometimes. That is in an ever-evolving world, as an ever-evolving human being, you're going to change. And sometimes you might lose track of that.
Yeah.
Because there's always a little truth in legends, but the key word there is a little truth.
Yeah.
And so that is why I personally like The Last Jedi, because I will agree, it is not what I thought I'd get from Luke. I wanted a wise sage Luke, but what I got lines up with reality, in at least how I see it and what I've experienced from it. So that is, and that's a lot of people's biggest gripe with it. They're like, I like this, but I hate what they did to Luke because I grew up with Luke. And I'm like, that's fair. I grew up with Luke. I did not read all these expanded universe stories, so I was not as tied to it. But in terms of, realism, it's there. And he got tested like his son, like his dad. Luke got tested like Anakin. But instead of actually killing the youngling, he did not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it caused the youngling. I'm saying youngling. He was 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he went down the dark path, and that led to the rise of Kylo Ren, which I was about to grab the comic, but it's too far away. It was great. Highly recommend.
Well, it's funny you mentioned all that because I was thinking that watching this movie again, and I don't necessarily love everything they do with Luke in The Last Jedi. And I think between 8 and 9, if that had been more of a tight grip on kind of like the story of just like what they're going to do with Luke, it would have been better because they kind of just flip the script. And he has a bit of a cool arc in Last Jedi, to be honest. Like he comes back, like he kind of like puts these things aside, and I really just want to give kudos, I think, for the direction they went with Luke. It's not my favorite. I'm with a lot of people. It would have been, I think, maybe more, I don't know, enjoyable to see Luke as this like Yoda like
he is in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. And that felt cheap to me in Rise of Skywalker, to be honest. Like I enjoyed it. It was cool to see, but part of me is like, all right, like they're just doing this because they went so far to the left. Or
but
like, you know what I mean?
I will defend the way it went because at the end he still does what he needs to do in the end of Last Jedi. That's what everyone is kind of it misses. He recognized the error of his ways. He tapped back into the Force. He tapped back into the Force strongly. He distracted Ben Solo at the discretion of losing his life while looking at the horizon. And then, you know, that allowed the Rebel Alliance or the Resistance or the Retaliation or whatever they're called to get away by snow foxes, which are awesome. And they look like they played around with Iceman as a kid. And then he, you know, and he has that speech with Leia. It's like, no one's ever really gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. And, you know, we didn't know at the time, but he's like, you know, I'll still be with you in the Force when I go. And so is Han in some way.
Yeah.
And that leads to, you know, her showing Han, which I think that she might be projecting Han to Ben through Ben, but it's kind of,
that's what I thought.
But also it's been said
like
by a couple of people that it's just his memory, and that is his own guilt coming to manifest in itself. Through the Force, definitely in his own mind, but
Leia's spirit is like in him because then she vanishes after
when he dies. Exactly.
Right.
And so when Luke comes back, you know, here's the thing to remember. The only person who truly knew what was going on with Luke was, you know, probably Leia, in the sense that he closed himself off from the Force. I can't sense him. But Rey was there to see what he grew into. And so when she just does what he does, she did what her master did, and she went there, and his whole purpose is to say, look, this is not the way to go, and that is realistic. People do what the people who teach them do, and they don't even realize it. It's ingrained into them based on, you know, especially when you think of the legend of Luke Skywalker, which he became a bigger legend after that.
Yeah.
And she found out that she was the granddaughter of the Emperor, and the only person who can actually help her in that moment is Luke Skywalker, because he was the son of Darth Vader, and it didn't faze him one bit. And it's all about who you are. And so in terms of Luke, it does track. Do I love it? No. Do I like it? Yeah. You know what? They took a risk and they summed it up, and they used Luke in the way that they used all of the legendary characters. And that's right. I said legendary characters.
Yeah.
And that's my take on the sequel trilogy. It's a thing.
Okay. Bringing it back to this trilogy in one moment. But I just wanted to say, it's just going into Force Awakens, that opening scroll of Force Awakens, Luke Skywalker has vanished. Is that not the first line, I think, or is missing or something?
Yeah. No, I think it's Luke Skywalker has vanished or gone into hiding.
Yeah, I think it's vanished. What a great opening scroll. I remember the opening scroll for Force Awakens is maybe my favorite opening scroll. It's a fantastic opening scroll, in my opinion, which is such a random thing to be ranking right now. but I really enjoy it. And it just sets the stage because that whole movie, they're just trying to find Luke, clues to Luke. And at the very end, you finally get there. And I enjoy Force Awakens as a movie. And I think that just kind of set up Luke in a way where it was so exciting that we were going to see him again. And everyone was so amped. And the ending of Force Awakens, we see Luke standing there. And it's so cool that, like, the risk is cool, what they did, how they played the character of Luke. But I agree. I liked it, didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could have been handled better. And I also would have loved to see the original 3 characters back together at some point. That's in Chewie. Like, that's something I think that missed the mark for me. It's just like, come on, especially because when you watch, we can kind of start diving into this trilogy as a whole. Like, when you watch this trilogy, like those 4 with Chewie, and even those 6, if you include C-3PO and R2-D2, they drive this plot along with Vader on the other side. But they're really like the heart and soul of Star Wars, and it's just a shame we don't. And I think the people at Disney kind of missed that. They're like, yep. Oh, the Force drove it. No, like it didn't. Like, I mean, like the nerdy stuff that we freak out about drove it. No, not really. It's the characters in these movies that really stick out. And anyway. No need to keep drowning on about the sequel trilogy. We'll get there someday if you guys ever vote, if we ever put it up on the poll.
This is the opening scroll. Luke Skywalker has vanished is the very first.
Yep, exactly.
So
awesome.
They set it up right there. And vanish is a great because, he's physically gone, but he cut himself off from the Force. So he vanished from the Force, which is why he's missing. And I think that's probably where Rian Johnson got his idea from. Okay, he's vanished. Well, you'd be able to find him in the Force. Oh, what if he's cut off from the Force? Oh my.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about the sequel trilogy is we heard this from someone recently, and I think it's starting to ring really hard, especially after I was already thinking about it. Is that J.J. Abrams loves questions more than he loves answers.
Exactly.
So, and he created great questions, and Rian Johnson came up with some answers that he knew was going to be picked up from someone else and tied up in the next movie, which is why he did his thing. And so, yeah, that is that. That is the movie. That is the sequel trilogy. That is Return of the Jedi. David, what is your ranking for this trilogy?
So my ranking is so my ranking is always 5 first. It's always Empire. That's always going to be the best to me. And it still is. You know, as a kid, like I said, I think Return of the Jedi was my favorite of the original Star Wars movies. Just because it was the most probably like upbeat and fun. And I think it's the most kid-friendly one for sure. And Empire is the least kid-friendly one. I think it's the most serious and almost takes the most thinking and patience, you know, with Dagobah and just the whole middle of the movie. I think kids could check out if you don't really like caring. With this movie, there's a lot of fun little stuff and humor. I will say in this movie, like I mentioned on last week's episode, that Han is awesome in Empire. I think in this movie, he's not as great. He's still Han. He's still great. But I think Harrison Ford it just wasn't. They didn't ask as much of him in this movie as they did in Empire. And there's still that awesome. They still get some great back and forth between him and Leia. But it almost seems like Han's just kind of there in this movie, and it's so
behind. I think it's just because he's behind the 8 ball.
Yeah,
from the opening movie. It is.
This movie is like so much about the Skywalkers, you know, and that's why I put this one behind Empire. And A New Hope, number 3 in this trilogy, just because I love the way it ends, the space battle and the throne scene to me, especially the throne scene. It's just something that really is so much fun to watch. And I really enjoy the opening with Luke coming in, cool, calm, collected. Like you said, the same kind of demeanor a bit as Darth Vader, which is awesome to see. And it's cool to break down now, you know, years after. But I think just the way it wraps up to me, the third act in Return of the Jedi to me is superior to the third act in A New Hope. Well, I still really enjoy A New Hope. And honestly, it's closer. 4 and 6, I think it's closer now after rewatching it this time for some reason than it actually think it has been. I really enjoyed A New Hope when we just rewatched it. Vader to me stuck out as being a really big positive in that movie, and Han, and everything. So I will say my ranking for trilogy of trilogies, ranking it for this trilogy, Empire, Jedi, A New Hope. That's my ranking. I think all of them, like the thing that's, this is definitely a trilogy. You can kind of take one out and watch it, but it is a set.
Empire.
Yeah, Empire you can take out and watch it, and that's what they did in theaters. They threw Empire in theaters, and people go out and see it, and aren't us and don't watch all three. They just go watch Empire, and it's still great.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that all three movies work well in a trilogy. Empire, I think, like almost works the best out of the trilogy because it makes the story like pivot so much after.
So hard.
I think A New Hope actually could be the best standalone, just because it has they almost made it as like a fully encapsulated story. Like it could have kind of ended, but not really, because they leave it open. But if it had been a dud, we would have never gotten any more. So anyway, Thomas, how do you rank the original Star Wars trilogy?
The exact same way.
Yeah, it's the right answer in my opinion. People, I think, debate A New Hope. And some people even have Return of the Jedi above Empire. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I think Empire, to me, each point I enjoy. People complain about the middle, but I really enjoy the middle of the movie. The start and the end are
fantastic. Yeah. I went on a pulpit last week and said the Empire Hoth is the greatest opening. Damn, I forgot how much fun Tatooine is, though.
Tatooine's a great opening.
There was a long time where Tatooine was my favorite opening, and I know why now, because it is just a fun thing. Hoth is just awesome.
Yeah,
but this is fun, and so they're great on two totally different spectrums and levels. They're graded totally differently, and they're just fantastic. Tatooine and Hoth are top two openings in all of the Star Wars, and the only one I like I like a little bit more than that is probably Rise of Skywalker, with traveling with Kylo Ren.
Oh,
I just think that's a lot of fun. And then right before they get to the it's a very short opening scene, but it's an opening scene. Same ranking.
The opening to Revenge of the Sith is really good.
It is true. That is true. That is a lot of fun, and it's dark, and it's got a lot of things, but it changes.
So cool.
Yeah, but the thing that I love more than the space battle is when it's obviously Dooku and Anakin, but that's so deep into it.
Yeah.
I mean, and everything from the moment you drop on Tatooine and you're with the droids, it's like, oh, dope. Okay.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
That's the reason. The same ranking. I'm very excited. Only thing I want to say, I don't really have anything to add except I would love to see this trilogy in the theaters.
Yes. And I would love to see the original cut. That's one other thing I have an issue with.
In the theaters.
Yes. Disney should give it to us. I don't see why they don't. I mean, I'm sure they have the original cut somewhere. Just pop it out on 4K Blu-ray. That'd be awesome.
Now that they own Fox, yes, they do have it.
Exactly. So anyway, as a trilogy, I will say, like, ranking the trilogies as a trilogy, this is a great trilogy.
Oh my god, yeah.
We've had some really good ones so far. Back to the Future, the Dark Knight trilogy, and am I missing one? No, that's it. And then now, this is the trilogy of our trilogies. Yeah, they don't quite work all together, but
we should have. What we should have done? We should have. We'll do this for the next time we do a trilogy of we get through 3 trilogies. We'll rank those trilogies.
Yeah,
just against each other in that trilogy of trilogies. Whatever the fans vote,
I could do it right now.
I cannot. I put zero thought into it.
Back to the Future, Star Wars, Batman.
Yes, yeah. I don't even. I'd probably go Star Wars, Batman, Back to the Future. Just because. No. It's not about what's good or not. It's just the ones that I like because I love Batman. Star Wars and Batman were. Star Wars and Batman were more first loves than I saw Back to the Future after Star Wars and after Batman. Batman was even before Star Wars.
Yeah. Back to the Future is like,
it is. I mean, honestly, if we're going to rank best trilogy in terms of a singular story, it's Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But I was just ranking my, how I rank them personally.
Right.
And story is a big part. The only reason, literally, Back to the Future wins that with such ease. And then I'd probably go Dark Knight and then Star Wars, because Star Wars, you've got one and then this time gap and then another time gap, but it takes a long time to figure out what's actually going on.
Yeah, but I think the Dark Knight trilogy kind of, I don't know, like it brings it back. Like we were saying, it's kind of disjointed because the Dark Knight is such a standalone film, and 1 and 3, like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, are so much more connected than the second one. So to me, I think Star Wars, because it is really one story. There's a jump, but it is one story. It is a jump there's a jump from Dark Knight to Dark Knight Rises,
but the thing, what I'm saying is that when you look at the themes and some of the storylines, it travels. There's really for Luke is the only one that continues going on. There's no sign of love. Like we see it now with Han and Leia. There's a sign of love in A New Hope. Yeah. But then, it's only because we know what's going on. And really, you watch that and you get the Luke story, and then you jump and they do it, and then he goes to Dagobah, and that is the middle of the whole thing, and that's when it all spins out of control really fast.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, and Dark Knight is that one moment in a 2-hour block. It spins everything on its head the entire way. And really, I'm going to be honest, like that's more of if you follow Gordon, like we talk about the prequels, follow Obi-Wan, you'll get through the story very quickly. Right. You'll enjoy what you see. Follow Commissioner Gordon, and that is the through line. Like he's the point of view character. And I feel like Obi-Wan is almost our point of view character because of how well it was pulled off in terms of writing, because he's there and he's ancillary. Like he's a major player, but in terms of the Anakin Skywalker arc, he's kind of on the fringes. And with Batman, he's so in it that you're with them, but then Gordon's on the fringes, and we sitting in the theater or watching on a TV, we're on the fringes.
And then Marty, the best point of view character of all time, ranks number 1.
Which is why it ranks up number 1 at story.
I just like how you were like, oh no, we'll rank them some other time. We just ranked them. Boom. That was so much fun.
We're winging it today. Yes. So I don't have our show notes open. How do we close our show? Oh yeah. David, where can everyone find you on the social media?
Yeah, you guys can find me at my name, David Thompson, on Facebook, at David J. Thompson on Instagram and TikTok, and David Thompson with 2 A's in the David. I forget when I made that handle, but it was years ago, and it just kind of is what it is. David Thompson with 2 A's in the David on Twitter. Thomas, what about you?
You can find me at Thomas Carter Rochester -actor on Facebook, at Thomas Carter Rochester, all one word, no hyphens, no spaces on Instagram. Thor Son of Dale on TikTok, RIP. At TC Rochester Act, that is TC Rochester ACT on Twitter, and of course Life of Thor on YouTube. Search for Thor Watches the Mandalorian, and I will guarantee that you find me. And be on the lookout for Thor Watches Mandalorian live, in the season 1 live. I'm gonna do it eventually. I gotta get back from Texas first.
Yeah.
You can also find. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Do this and then audio.
Yes. You can also find us on Facebook at Lights Thunder Action Show, the YouTube. You can find us at the HWWS WebTV YouTube channel with a host of content, including Hangin with Web Show, who was our ad and sponsor for the day. And of course, at LTA Podcasting on Twitter. And of course, David, more importantly than all of that stuff, where can everyone find these podcasts, the audio?
Yeah, guys. So this is also, obviously, we do our Lights Thunder Action show every week for you guys. We have interviews. We do our normal show, Trilogy of Trilogies, Tournament of Trilogies, which should be happening next week. Look out for that. We have to decide our next trilogy between Jurassic World trilogy, or Jurassic Park trilogy, and Indiana Jones trilogy. So look out for that poll. But if you guys can't check out our live shows here on Facebook and YouTube, we do post this as an audio version podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and our hosting site, Spreaker. So go check out our audio podcast. If you didn't check out this whole show, and you can go run, work out, drive, have fun, listen to our voices. You don't have to look at our ugly mugs. So go check that out. And honestly, thank you all for joining us today. This has been a bit of a all over the place show. I think just the opening, talking about Chadwick Boseman really got us just that was just kind of a lot.
In our feelings.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I think it just kind of got us off our games a bit. At least I felt like I was off mine. My head's just kind of scrambled right now.
It was raw.
So.
We had a very raw show.
Yeah.
We were very open. We were just kind of in the moment. And sometimes that's where gold comes from. That's where the shining light and hope for the universe comes from. David, do you have anything to promote this week?
Not really. I haven't. You guys can check out my podcast, Double Down Debates. It is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It is a sports kind of debate show that I do. It's just an audio version of the podcast. You can go check it out there. I haven't posted in a little while. Hopefully will soon. But you guys can go check it out there if you want. Thomas, anything for you?
Probably so many things that I'm just forgetting because I was not. No, that's fine. It's a rental. I'm excited about that, but I don't want to brag right now. I have to get in work mode for that, so I'll talk about it after. There'll be a recap. I want to promote a segment that's coming up though soon in the next few shows. I've been listening to audiobooks, so Thor Listens is going to be a new segment where I talk about what audiobook or podcast that I'm listening to. I always listen to podcasts, but I feel like I should share with you guys what's going on in my head because this is a lot of the stuff that goes on in my head. Really, I'll just, like I teased it earlier, I'm listening to Queen's Peril right now, audiobook. It's narrated and read by Catherine Tabor, who does Padme in
Clone
Wars, and she plays Leia in Rebels, I do believe.
Oh, cool.
So it's very entertaining, very well, and it has sound effects and some of the music. It's very well, a great audio production.
Cool.
And a lot of good information about Padme. It starts on election day for the new queen to give you an idea of like how awesome this is on what was Amidala.
Yeah, audiobooks is a good idea right now. Well, at least for me, because I feel like I've been so busy and everything. I've been able to just sit down and read. I have some books I'm looking at right now that I want to read. I just haven't been able to. Hopefully, sometime soon. But anyway, that sounds awesome, Thomas. I can't wait to hear everything you've listened to.
I've got like 2 12 to 13 hour drives that I have to make there and back from Texas. So I was like, I need more than podcasts because I'll run out fast and I'll get bored. So I was like, Star Wars audiobooks. So be prepared for at least 2 books that I'm going to promote next time.
Can't wait.
And of course, we didn't shout out anyone in the comments. I don't believe. Terry, thank you for being here, brother. Kevin Buddha saying G-Dub, Pop Mcder Murray. Yeah, that's right. I went with the alliteration. Willow Schuyler, Alfred Pennyworth, Studio Cola TV. We are so sorry that we weren't paying attention to the comments. This was kind of a raw and open show. You guys have amazing comments. I'm scrolling through them now. They're fantastic. Some of them, Terry is quoting the movie to us. So I feel 100% underprepared for this if he's quoting off the top of his head. Thank you for joining us on this 22nd episode of Lights, Thunder, Action. We will see you all in a week and or 2.
Thanks, everyone.